Ooh, you're the one that I love. Ooh, ooh, la, 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 la,
Were
ooh.
you watching the Grease sing along?
I was not, but like,
Oh, because that was one of them.
oh, oh, wait, where is the sing along at?
It was like on Channel 5 or something last week.
Oh no, I had no clue.
It showed like Grease and it had like the words along the bottom so you could sing along.
So I'm sure I haven't told you this. Well, you might know, but like I'm a musical theater nerd, like soups nerd.
Oh, good. I like that.
Yeah, like
I kind of am too. I just keep it on the down low.
wait, we have to find some songs to sing together.
There was a show. Oh my God, no, not sing together. I'm only a listener. My
Oh,
voice is really bad. But there was a show in like the 70s or something called The Magic Show.
mm-hmm.
And it was a musical with Doug Henning. He was a magician.
I have
And there was
no
like
idea who
one,
Doug Canning is,
and I had
honestly.
such a crush on him, but there was one song that came out of that show that Kristen Chenoweth sometimes sings.
Ooh,
And it's just such an amazing song. I want to be a lion tamer, sequins and hats and top hats. I know I could be a lion tamer. I've always gotten along with cats.
I actually feel like I know this one more so because I'm a Kristen Chenoweth stan. Like
I just love that. Gosh, I love that song. I had that soundtrack on a loop. You know what? There's a show coming out, it's sort of like in a Hamilton type of
uh
style
huh.
called Six
Oh,
that was to be coming from London. And it's about the six wives of Henry VIII.
oh,
And like each of the wives has like I think like different raps and stuff. And it's like so my friend Karen's daughter already knew about the soundtrack. She's a real theater nerd and she knew about the soundtrack. And I actually had bought us tickets. We were supposed to go here in May, but it never opened and it never came because of the
oh.
pandemic.
Well, it should still be coming, right?
I hope.
Okay.
I hope
We
things still happen.
we do have one per person here. I just want to say hi, but
Okay. All right. Hello.
I first wanted to start out by making an intention, like um for this particular session.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely want to focus on pullouts and cancellations.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I want to focus on cancellations first, but I guess it would probably help to explain what all of these are as well. So let's do cancellations, let's do pullouts, and then let's do voluntary stuttering.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay. Can I explain cancellations? Because
Yes.
what's interesting about cancellations is it's originally a Van Riper term. Because so Van Riper was the stuttering modification guru. So his philosophy was instead of trying to change the way you speak to be more fluent, change the way you stutter to have it be more easy and less tension. Okay, so he did do a lot of desensitization work, at the beginning because he, like everyone else, understood that if your body is still very, reactive and sensitive, then you're not going to be able to use any tool. It
Right.
just doesn't work like that. So technically, even though they weren't fluency tools, they still are tools. Okay. So in his language, the idea would be first you would learn to do a cancellation, which to do a cancellation, you have to be very aware of your own stuttering in live time.
Yes.
And a lot of people are not. They'll go, you'll say, oh, you just had 3 stutters. And they're like, oh, I did. It's almost like they're not even necessarily aware of them when they happen, which in some ways is a good thing, to not be ruminating over everyone. But, I digress. So he would have you stop after you have a very tense stutter is the language he would use. It would be very tense. You would go to the end of the word, stop, and then say the word more easily. So frankly, what I saw happening was people would stop and then say the word essentially fluently.
Yes, I feel like I've fallen victim to that. Yeah.
And I think that's a problem because, again, you're still buying into the I'm chasing fluency, and fluency is the mark of success.
So are
Okay?
cancellations something that you don't necessarily use?
No, I use it in a different way.
Okay.
So now I'm going to explain a good, solid avoidance reduction cancellation.
Okay.
Because that's really the work that we're doing is learning to stop the things that your body does in order to avoid experiencing the full moment of stuttering.
Okay.
Okay, so that brings us to the language of that we have easy for forward moving stutters. And then over here we have what we call tense avoidant stutters. So your body is just like, oh no, I'm not going in there, and your body just kind of like stops it. So it's a combination of your body buying back into, trying to avoid the moment of stuttering and the tension that ensues. Okay, so here's how it works: you're talking, and when you have forward moving stutters, that's great. You just keep on going. That's the point. You're going to have stutters. It's how eloquently you can deal with them when they happen.
Right.
And of course, they tend to happen less the more comfortable you tend to be.
Yes.
But they're still going to happen.
Yes.
On the other hand, if you're in a place or in a time where either your muscle memory of tension really, really kicks back in, or you're in a situation where a gremlin pops up, like, oh, you really shouldn't be stuttering here, and if you stutter, this person's going to think something bad about you, and you better hurry up, you better not say it, take too long to say it, come on, time is money. You buy into any of those, you're going to be more likely to have the tense avoidance stutter. Okay? So basically what a cancellation is you catch yourself having the tense avoidance stutter. You don't beat yourself up. You run to the end of it. And then what I just did was I took a very deliberate pause, kind of said to myself, wait a minute, I want to stutter that in a nice, easy, forward moving way.
Yeah.
You stop and you do it again with a voluntary stutter. Or with a voluntary prolongation, whatever it is you want. But it's an easy form of stuttering that you put in.
When I'm stuck in the stutter itself, do I stop mid-stutter, or do I finish that word with the hard stutter and then redo it with the voluntary?
The second. You go all the way to the end. Okay. You're not supposed to try to stop it. Technically, after you've done a bunch of cancellations, you can then kind of use a pullout. Now, a pullout is basically just now catching the tension in mid-block and saying to yourself, wait, why am I pushing so hard? Let me just ease up on the brake and go through it. But technically, a cancellation is almost like a more powerful tool to really feel that you have full choice when you stutter. See, the problem with the pullout sometimes is like you're right in the middle of that tension. And some people can't ease up on the brake once they're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So with a cancellation, which is considered the first thing, like in other words, according to the thing, you're supposed to do some cancellations for a while first. and then they sometimes almost turn into natural pullouts.
Okay, so then why don't we only focus? So, okay, that would be considered a pullout, right? Like, it started as a voluntary stutter, then it kind of turned into a real stutter, and then I sort of pulled out of it. But what I really want to focus on, because I'm working on becoming shameless with my stutter again, is
Cool.
I really want to focus on cancellation, specifically with voluntary stuttering.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Now, I think one thing that we also talked about is that, like, there's an element of when you do voluntary stuttering that sometimes if it's a form of stuttering that you're not used to, it almost feels weird to stutter that way.
Mm-hmm.
So since you said you want to kind of be like shameless about the way that you stutter, do you remember like kind of what we explored in terms of what kind of stuttering feels kind of weird to you?
Yes, and it's the vocalization of my stutter. Like instead of blocking, having sound throughout.
Right. And it's funny because you rarely do bounces on the first sound.
Oh, is it always on like the second syllable?
Yeah, it's more like in other words, however you move through it is the point.
Right.
But
Okay.
we're trying to shake up the muscle memory and have a judgment that all stuttering is okay.
Yes, I don't have that judgment yet, so let's work on it.
So, you might want to try to make an effort to just throw in what we call easy bounces.
Okay.
Easy bounces have a very powerful message to the gremlins that to tell you not to. In other words, when you're a little kid, you tend to stutter more like that.
Yeah.
And then once people mess with your head and make you feel it's not cool to stutter, that's when it moves away from that.
Right.
So in a way that it might almost have like a subconscious trauma to stuttering that way, because it's like what you affiliate with stuttering, and you don't want to be stuttering really in the first place.
Yeah, which actually brings us into the topic that I kind of wanted to talk about today, because I've had some parents like reaching out asking me questions, sound like questions. Just about how to go about raising a child who stutters, and because I'm not specifically raising a child who stutters, I have to go from the experience that I had when I was a child. And what I think hurt me most out of anything were all of the like little microaggressions that ended up happening that weren't necessarily saying like, "Ha ha, you stutter," but more like the underlying parts of conversations, or like maybe just being interrupted and told to stop or slow down, or like all of the non-overt ways to tell me that stuttering is not okay, I think actually caused way more harm than like someone flat out saying, "You stutter, ha 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 ha." Like it's be, 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 because I'm. Hold on, I'm sorry. Someone just asked a question. They said, "Can you explain the little better. Let me know which one. We just talked about voluntary stuttering and doing cancellations, and you can always like watch the live. But
The voluntary stuttering video that we originally did is very informative too. That one on voluntary stuttering.
would you like to go back and expound a bit, or
No. Let's keep talking about what you're saying. I'm just saying, if anyone wants to watch that other video, if you remember, we kind of went over voluntary stuttering in a pretty good way.
in our past live. Old habits are dying hard right now.
But it's interesting. You notice how it's like, in a way, you're driving the boat of your stutter. You're you are kind of controlling it. I hate the word control because such a weird word. It's a gremlin to feel like you have to be in control, but you don't. On the other hand, you don't want to be helpless. You want to have choices. So you were saying about microaggressions.
So like one of the moments that really stuck out to me, like with aggression, especially as it even pertains to my parents, would be like, say I was really excited to tell them something. Maybe something happened at school, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And so I was just really happy, and of course, especially at that age, say I was maybe 12. Trying to explain something and then having such a severe stutter, which I had at that age. I had a lot of blocks at that age, and
a lot of people don't realize that it amps up a lot of times at that age because of hormones.
That makes sense. Like that was also during the time when my stutter would get so bad, and I would hold so much tension that I've literally like chipped my teeth.
Oh wow! Oh wow! Whoa!
Yeah. But something my mom would do, which like would frustrate me, would like in the middle of me speaking, she would say, "Slow down, just slow down. I don't understand why you can't just slow down. Just start over." And hearing that over and over and over again, that's sort of where my mood of saying never mind started.
Sure. See, and that's, and the microaggression of that one is clearly, I'm not excited for you when you're excited. I am excited when you speak fluently.
Right.
That would excite me, and honestly, like, let's say you came in and it's sort of a microaggression the other way when a kid says something, let's say that they know that they can say, what do you want for dinner? And the kid knows they can say pizza, but they can't say macaroni and cheese. So even though they want the macaroni and cheese, and then they say, one kid says, "I'll have pizza," and they say, "I'll have pizza too." "Oh, that was so great. You said that so smooth."
Right.
Okay, thank you. You just reinforced that it's better to switch it up than to say what I want to say. And actually, so it's like, and again, what makes it a microaggression, which is very interesting semantically, is you've just gotten a compliment. Someone said something to you that was like your thing about, "Oh, if you would just slow down," you can kind of see how that would bother somebody a lot. Like, "Stop telling me to slow down." But when you compliment someone, it's like, and the fact that actually is detrimental. Like, what did you compliment me for? You complimented me for fluency. So, "Oh, you're such a good boy. You're using your speech tools." Why does that make me a good boy?
Right. So I guess in that case also would, like, say this actually happens to me often, but sometimes if I haven't seen someone in a long time, and like say we've maybe had like the shortest conversation, they'll say like, your
Oh, you're
stuttering's getting
better.
so
You
much
got so much
better. Yeah,
better.
oh my God, you're getting better. Like, I haven't heard you stutter. I'm like, well, first of all,
Ugh.
I had no clue you were clocking me.
Yeah, right.
Um, like, make
And like that word better.
here's another one. Like, so even though that's a compliment, it's still a microaggression because it's sort of implying that what was or what they perceived as your stutter was, not, I don't know how to say it right, but a not
Well,
necessarily
it's just simple. Stuttering is not as good as not
right. Yes,
stuttering.
yes. Boom.
You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you're better when you're not stuttering. You know, but in a way, you kind of also have to buy into the ignorance. And you're right, it's just a short conversation. But in your mind, though, because things like that, those little microaggressions, feed your gremlins. That's the problem. That's really the ultimate, detriment of someone saying something like that, is the gremlin that already believes you're better when you're fluent now has gotten a nice cookie.
See,
You
you
know,
are better when you're fluent.
yeah.
Yeah.
See, somebody just told you so
Yeah.
to your face. Someone who likes you, who's giving you a compliment.
Yeah.
So it's hard to ignore it, but you kind of almost have to say, well, you know what, that's like from their perspective. And of course, that's the old school thinking that fluency is better than stuttering. And the new school thinking is that easy forward moving stuttering is better than tense avoidant stuttering. Because here's what it ultimately is, right? People don't realize that for most people, many people, the struggle and the tension and all of that is really your body trying so hard to be fluent. Like it comes from just like so pulling back from the moment of stuttering. No, I don't want that moment of stuttering. And that's what makes it tense. Of course, you don't want to stutter. Nobody would want to stutter. But when you say to yourself, but the cost benefit analysis is, do I want to stutter tense and avoidantly? Or do I want to stutter openly that allows me to say what I want to say?
Right.
So try, when somebody says something like, you're doing so much better, to maybe even verbalize, well, I'm working on stuttering more openly.
Okay. So in a way, you're also imparting some knowledge to them as well, about the ins and outs of.
Right, you're giving a little education, and more importantly, you're taking the cookie away from your own gremlin.
Right.
And if you don't want to say it to the other person, at least think it. Like, okay, well, she's saying I'm better because, come on, I have been working on uttering more openly and easily. And maybe she's seeing that, but doesn't really understand what I'm doing.
Right. Okay.
Because you are better. You know what I mean? You are better. We're always better. The next day, we're always better.
Yeah.
But you don't want to buy into better being like, oh, you're more fluent.
Right.
Because that's what your gremlin wants you to always believe.
Okay. So I'm gonna tell you a situation that happened to me when I was still in high school. At the time I was interning at Johnny Cochran's law firm, and this moment still sticks with me. Like it still hurts my feelings, and I don't know if I've been able to completely
shift it.
Yeah. Okay, so I was in my senior year of high school. I was contemplating being a lawyer, which is why I had the internship. So like this was around the the time when we were getting our acceptance letters, and there was this one particular school that I got accepted to, and it made me so happy. I was just like, I got in this one particular school. I am that girl, like a. So like all of the associates of that firm was in a meeting, and I was in it also. And so one of them from across the table asked me, what school did I get accepted to?" And saying the school was the most difficult thing, and I couldn't even like get it out. And like it took, I guess it took me so long that he just like stopped me and said, "Never mind." And like not being able to have that moment and like celebrate myself in front of all of these people who, I had been were working with and looking up to. It was just such like a horrible moment that I didn't end up going to that school because I was afraid that that same moment would happen over and over and over again. I know.
Really?
Yeah.
Ay.
I know. I know.
Huh.
And like it was just like such I revered all of the people in that room at the time. And like so many factors also played into that. Like my self-esteem was at the floor, and so many other factors played a part of it. But
By the way, did the people, had you disclosed that you stutter to the people at the law firm?
yeah, they all knew.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I know.
Do you recall having, it's a drag. It really is. Do you recall having any like sort of core beliefs popping up as you were like, oh, it's just one word, you better say it fluently, or
Oh, my self speak during that time was absolutely horrible. Like it was like, "Oh, you're so stupid. You can't even say this." Like the worst way that a person can talk to you was how I was talking to myself consistently.
so it's really interesting. I think that's really what you kind of have to reflect on, is in a way that moment was sort of like, let's say a stutter came down the pike, on the word. What was the word?
Ah! See, it starts with an S, then it goes into a stop plosive, which I think makes it harder.
No, that's in your mind. It has no power over you.
Darn it. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna throw that away then. Spellman.
Okay, okay. So that technically you went through it with all the tension. Now we would stop. Now think about how you would bounce it. Just the S.
Yeah. Spellman.
See, what was interesting is when you started saying it the first time, you had no voicing. You were going. So in other words, you were already unable to get started because your voice wasn't moving. So avoidance reduction would even be in that moment, not that it would be easy, but to be like, you know what I mean? It's like you got to almost put realize that the speech isn't moving forward if these aren't vibrating. So if you're going, well, like an H, and these aren't moving, you're not getting anywhere. So anyway, Spellman, Elman, yeah. So the thing is, like at that moment, that word had a lot of power.
Yeah.
And a lot of times words that start with a capital letter, like proper nouns, are more difficult for a person to stutter because there's a gremlin that tells you can't substitute it. There's no substitute for that word.
Yeah.
Same as your name.
Yeah.
You say it here and now, and you got no other choice, and that kind of like pigeonholes you into kind of having more tension. So the thing to realize is at that moment, like you said, your self-talk was down. All these like gremlins were in play. Oh, you're so stupid. Oh, you can't even say this one word or whatever. So now that little stutter makes it down the pike. And now your body reacts with tense and avoidancy. That's the language we're using. Tense, avoidant, stuttering to the max. So avoidant that your body was saying, guess what? We're not even going to let it come out. We're going to make it so tense and so avoidant that we're going to not let it come out. So your faith has to be that, what would be different today?
I'm sorry, 1 second. My page just sort of split open. What would make different?
Yeah, like let's say someone asked you, oh, what was the name of the school? And it sort of was almost happening again because of the muscle memory of it.
I would say, well, okay, I would voice the S with the Spellman. I would take into consideration that there is history with that word, and so I would be gentle with myself.
Mm-hmm.
I would put voice on it, and I would voluntary stutter at the beginning. Is that the right answer?
Mm-hmm. And you have other options. There's other options too. You also could just stop and self-disclose. Like, boy, this one is really, this is tough. Boy, I can't believe how hard it is for me to say that word. Again, telling the gremlins, it's okay. I don't have to pretend there's a pink elephant in the room and I've told everyone not to look at it. I'm having a block. I can be gentle with myself about it. And also remembering, again, it doesn't, try not to buy into the overgeneralization. Like, if someone says, what's the name of it? And you feel yourself going, okay, great, now I'm going to stutter it. I always stutter this word. Overgeneralization. That's why I said that word has no power over you. Because you don't want to feed the gremlin that's told you that there are certain words that you're always going to stutter on. Just like when some people say, oh, I always stutter on the phone.
Yeah.
Well, if you're going to keep saying in your own head you always stutter on the phone, there's a pretty good chance you're always going to stutter more on the phone. How about my history was to stutter more on the phone, but I'm working on making it so I stutter the same everywhere.
Everywhere, right. So like one per particular action isn't demonized in your head as it pertains to your stutter.
Right, exactly.
Sulo, I don't know if that's how you say it, but they wrote, I didn't take good paying jobs because I was too nervous about my stutter. Like it's I don't know, like it's I guess it's more normal than we think to limit ourselves because of what we think other people will think about us.
Well, you know what it is? It's the act of self-preservation. So if there's a fear, if I go to this job, I might stutter too much. Okay, and that's a fear. I'm worried that I'm going to stutter a lot. Then right off the bat, you're going to get yourself like kind of into like an anxiety state, almost like a fight or flight response, right? And people could go two ways. They could go into the situation anyway and have that more tense avoidant stuttering because the gremlins are screaming, right? And that would be fight. Or you do an act of self-preservation is I don't need this. I don't want this. So you flee. And that's what people do when they don't take a job, when they don't date someone with the wrong name. Oh, this guy's name starts with a B. I can't do bilabials. I'm not going to date this guy. I've heard people do that.
What? Okay, so I know that there's fight or flight, but like would fighting also be considered maybe facing it head on, but just without the proper tools to manage?
Well, it's like you're fighting the good war. Yeah, like I almost picture that. Many people are very, very courageous, but still have those gremlins screaming, and they feel the fear and do it anyway. But sometimes that can also be unpleasant, where people say like, okay, I felt like I was in quicksand, grabbing randomly at branches above me and feeling them snapping in my hands.
It's super interesting that you say that because I've always, considered myself a fairly courageous person. And like people would tell me all the the time like you never let stuttering hold you back. You're so, you're such a so inspiring. So this, but I never felt it more so because I think by nature I just try things like I like speaking. I like
Well,
what?
if I can interject, I would say that for you, it didn't feel like courageous. It just felt like you were living.
Yeah.
To get up and give a speech where someone would say, oh, she stutters, it's so courageous. You're like, everybody else gives a speech. Why wouldn't I give a speech?
Right.
Why would I let that? But at the same time, you would go to that speech geared up for war.
Yes. So I guess
with your battle armor on,
would that be considered a aggression also? Where like
I consider microaggressions more like things that come from other people.
Okay.
The things that the way people react or,
Yeah. I had to call Amazon yesterday and to get a refund on something. And I told the woman I stuttered like as soon as our phone call started. But and I don't want to consider this a microaggression because maybe she was just breathing hard at that moment. But like there were these huge sighs whenever I would go into a stutter. It was like, and I was just on there like, are you trying to play me? Like, what are you? And so I just like, kept going, trying to not take these huge sighs personally. But is that something you think a person should address or no?
See, again, the word should is dangerous because that, you know what I mean? That's like as though there's like some written law. But in the moment, is it your right to say, excuse me, what's with the size? I personally think so. I mean, it's customer service. It's like, excuse me, I can't help noticing you keep sighing. Would you like to give me another rep? They're being taped too.
Okay, yeah.
So they gotta toe the line at some level.
Okay.
So I don't necessarily consider it. Yeah, that could be totally a microaggression. Like you took it like, again, somebody else, or you could just sort of laugh it off. That's just it. I like your healthy approach to like, what is her problem? Like she might not even realize she was doing it.
Yeah, true. Like, and in the past, I totally would have turned that on myself and
Oh,
made,
see, that's when it becomes a gremlin. Like,
right.
okay, I got to do something to make this woman not sigh
Yeah,
because her sighs show that she's impatient and she's more important than me.
right.
So technically, if you wanted to become fearless, you would stutter like that to her.
Put all the stutters out there.
Like really make them loud and proud and be like, you know what I mean? Like push it in her face.
Yeah, yeah.
Make it kind of like funny.
Speaking of that, I sort of want to practice more overt stuttering, specifically in the faces of people who I'm like, I wanna stick it to. It's like you'll you'll stand here and listen to every stutter I have. Like just keep them coming at them.
But at the same time, I don't want you to feed a gremlin that says that it takes any kind of special tolerance or patience to listen to that.
Oh, gosh, there are so many like.
Totally. There's so many layers. Like, in other words, if I stutter out loud, I'm sticking it to somebody. That's a gremlin too. You know what I mean? Like, in other words, you want to do the opposite of what your gremlins would be telling you to do. So with the woman sighing, that would immediately old school, right? Put you into, okay, I got to use my tools to be more fluent. I don't want this chick to keep sighing. So to ache it down, you'd be like, hell's to the no if you're going to put me in a situation where I'm trying not to stutter. But it doesn't really go further than that. It's not like, all right, good, I'm going to passive aggressively stutter at you to bother you. Because then you're still saying that your stuttering bothers somebody.
Right.
It's just a different way of talking. It's an accent. Try to buy into the fact that it's just an accent.
And it also, I guess, makes it about them.
Right. That's right. And you don't want to ever sort of give your power away. And that's what you got to figure out in this situation. What do I need to do to take my power back in this dynamic?
Yeah.
And it might be something as simple like, excuse me, could you please stop sighing when I stutter? You did tell her that you stutter.
Yeah, I did.
Right? So it wouldn't be then off color for you to say, excuse me, can you please stop sighing now when I stutter? Or could you please stop interrupting me?
Right.
Or please let me finish what I wanted to say if they're trying to guess the words. You're not doing it to be nasty. You're doing it to tell your gremlins, I'm not going to let this person influence the way that I'm speaking. I'm going to do me, and I'm going to create an environment that helps me do me.
You take me to church sometimes. Like, sometimes I'm just like, oh, hallelujah. Yes, Heather. Praise be.
But for those, I know some people you said were asking a lot about parents, and kids. And, back to what we were talking about before, I think it's really important for parents to be aware of the term microaggression and what those, what form they take with a young child. So, for example, if a child is stuttering, a whole lot, something like, I really care so much about what you want to say, and I'm going to listen as long as it takes, is sort of like, again, taking the cookie away from the gremlin. or if the kid starts to stutter and the other sibling starts to say it fluently, and now the kid who's stuttering just stops talking, the thing to say right there is, so and so is talking. We're going to let him finish. What he has to say is important, and like constantly praising, saying what you want to say, because we know that if the child starts avoiding and the parent says, "Oh, you said that so smooth," what are you reinforcing?
Yeah.
Or they
speech.
told you a whole story all excited, and now they come home from school and you say, "All right, what happened?" And instead of telling the big excitement story, they say, "I won a prize." And now the parent says, "Oh, that's so great."
That's exactly what ended up happening with me and my mom's relationship. I think I felt over time that me being fluent was so much more important than anything else that I had to say, that I ended up just not telling her a lot, whether it was the stuff that she really even needed to know as a parent. Like I started to keep it all to myself.
Yeah. From a young age, really from a very young age, when the child is first aware that they're stuttering, the more healthy thing is for a parent to say, it looks like talking is really hard. There are other people that have the same thing. In fact, everybody sometimes trips over a word. It's okay. It's okay that you talk this way. I know it's hard for you to get the words out, but we're here to listen and we're here to talk about it, kind of normalizing it so that the child feels that they have a safe place.
Yeah.
Mom, I didn't feel like doing the presentation today, and let's talk that through. Instead, why didn't you do the presentation? Why don't you just use your tools?
Yeah. I'm so happy that you said that, and reiterating the point that it's okay to speak the way that you speak, because that notion was never introduced to me until I started seeing you in my mid-20s.
Wow. And frankly, a lot of parents fear that if they send that message, the way you speak is okay, that they're sort of resigning their child to a lifetime of stuttering. So by me making it okay, I'm basically condoning it, and the chances of it going away are now diminished. Okay. Right. We know from a research perspective that it does not work like that. So parents need not fear making it okay. In fact, it turns out that the microaggressions of, use your tools, say it fluently, build those early gremlins. And cognitive behavioral theory tells us that once you believe that you're a better boy, I'm a good boy when I'm fluent, I'm a bad boy when I stutter, you quickly stop raising your hand every time you think you're going to stutter. And it's on. Now it's on. And then it gets tenser. And then the avoidance builds, So in a way, when you're a little kid, you're just the middle of the onion. It's a core of stuttering, a little tiny core. And then your life experiences and the microaggressions and the things people say to you, and the internal feelings of isolation, the internal feelings that I'm weird, that I'm broken, build those layers. So how do you make the person not feel alone and broken? You introduce them to other kids who stutter. You introduce them to grownups who stutter, and you say, see, they stutter and it's okay. You might not stutter as an adult, but if you do, that's going to be okay too, because it's just a different way of talking.
Yeah. Let's end on that really positive, beautiful note. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
We have a few more minutes, so if any of you guys have any questions, bring them in there. Oh, here's one popped right up. Ha ha ha. They want to know if you're accepting new virtual clients.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Heather is. What I'll do is I'll put in the description box her email.
Cool.
I'm just gonna if you guys have any other questions, now would be the time to ask them. But I'm gonna look through them and see some that were asked. So one that was that someone is saying that they're starting to stutter in their sleep, and if that means anything.
That's interesting. I don't know. I'm so into dreams and stuff. Maybe it's acceptance.
So sometimes when I'm sleeping and dreaming, and like something is urgent, it's not that I stutter, but I like can't get sound out at all. But from my understanding, that's a pretty common one. Okay, here's another one. Does the whole read out loud to yourself help? Well, basically, they're saying, does reading out loud to yourself help?
Well, honestly, what most people make the mistake of doing is, again, they're doing that for the sake of trying to increase fluency when they talk. So again, you're sort of buying into the, chasing the fluency gods in a way. So I would say that we're reading out loud, practicing sprinkling little voluntary stutters could be a very helpful exercise. We're reading out loud. The other thing is too, you want to try to, of course, there's no gremlins present when you're alone. So,
Yeah.
We're reading out loud to someone else, taking a newspaper article and like, hey, listen to this. And then we're reading it with throwing in a couple of, stutters in it where you want to, on words you wouldn't even normally stutter on. That's the point. You pick a word, just a random word. I'm gonna stutter on it. Why? Because I'm going to tell my gremlins to go, take a long walk.
Shove it.
Yeah. So that could be really helpful. But again, I think practicing fluency doesn't necessarily make many people fluent. Because when you think about it, most of your words are fluent anyway. So you would think by some chance your body would be like, well, I practice fluency all the time. 80% of my words are fluent, but that doesn't make you more fluent.
You always come in making all of the sense. They replied, that makes sense, and thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
If there's any more, I think what I'm gonna do is set my intention for the rest of this week. I think I'm definitely gonna add in more voluntary stutters. I'm gonna stay away from prolongations at the moment, but
yeah, it's nice. I think it's healthy when you set an intention to kind of have like one solid intention.
Okay.
So if it's like I'm going to play around with stuttering this way, because again, I'm trying to get away from the gremlin that tells me that that's not the way I'm supposed to be stuttering.
Yeah.
And of course you might notice that when you're doing this, your eye contact is perfect. So it's like you don't have to work on thinking of eye contact when you're stuttering in a good way, because your body was only messing up the eye contact as an avoidance behavior in the first place.
One more question came through, and then we'll shut it down.
Okay.
What does it mean to have a profession that triggers negative emotions when you intended it to be desensitizing?
Wow.
What does it mean to have a profession that triggers negative emotions when you intended it to be desensitizing?
Frankly, I would say that you'd have to look really inward deep. Is it the profession that's bringing up the gremlins, or is it your self-talk? So, for example, if you became, like, I have a good friend who's an ER nurse, and there are times when people say things to her like, "I want someone who can talk." People will say obnoxious because they're scared, and they're in an ER, and she makes sure that she doesn't say, "Oh, it's my profession that's triggering it." In other words, and the other person isn't triggering it either. It's only if you, in your own mind, give it power and say, like, gee, maybe I didn't pick the right profession. I didn't realize I needed to be fluent here. You don't need to be fluent here. Just because a couple of scared people say, I want somebody who can talk, doesn't mean that you've picked the wrong profession. You just have a little bit more what we call normalization work to do, more disputing. This person is just one person. There were 10 other patients who didn't say a word to me today.
Right.
Who were grateful that they had a person helping them, and they didn't care how I talked. But it only takes one thing. Like, you remember that one word, and that, like you've probably sort of discounted all the good days that you had in the law firm. Where people were respectful of you and nice to you. We tend to do that. We tend to, like, just focus on the negative, and that's part of gremlin thinking too. This very all or nothing thinking. One bad event wipes away all the good.
All right. Wow.
And a lot of people, by the way, still don't really buy into self-disclosure enough. We didn't talk a lot about that today, just a little bit. But if you're in a job setting where you're constantly feeling the push to have to be fluent, sometimes just self-disclosing, I do stutter. I just wanted to let you know, you might hear some silences when I'm talking. A lot of times that can, even though that's uncomfortable to say at the beginning, that can help you feel that you don't now have to work so hard to be fluent because you've told them that you stutter. So again, you don't have to worry about what they're thinking because you told them what to think. You took responsibility for what they're thinking.
So, self-advertising and disclosure has really helped me, like, personally in my career career field, and not feeling like I have to be completely fluent and speaking, especially to, like, my bosses or people who are in charge.
Yeah, you took to that really, really well. And again, when people say, oh, you're better, that is a form of being better. Well, I am. I'm more, again, going back to that idea. Well, I am better. I'm being more open about it.
Yeah.
I'm being less ashamed of it. I'm walking around with less anticipation and less rumination.
Yeah.
For every stutter that I have. So thank you. I am feeling better.
I am. Yeah. Well, I think that's our time.
All right. Big hug.
Huge hugs.
And till the next time.
Yes, I'll see you in a week.
All right. So good luck with, just to toss them in.
And I'll make sure to keep them on the first letter.
Yeah, I mean, you can do it wherever, but for now, the intention is to do something like that, because that's kind of a different formula for you. So it's like we're kind of shaking it up.
Okay. All right. I'm down to shake it up.
All right. Shake it up.
Glasses are so
see you later.
No one told me. All right. I'll see you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. All right. It's just me. All right, guys, I really appreciate you guys hanging out. If you can do me a favor and just hit that like button real quick, it just helps, like, with the algorithm, so that people see it and whatnot. And I super appreciate it. All right, you guys have a lovely day. Stutter beautifully, and I'll see you in about another 2 weeks. I have sessions with her weekly, but I've only been posting these bi-weekly. So far, that seems to be working. If you guys are interested in more of these sessions, I can do more. So just let me know in the comment section below. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.